Jezebel, a name that resonates with infamy, is often associated with idolatry, manipulation, and cruelty. She was the Queen of Israel, married to King Ahab, and her story is chronicled in the books of 1 and 2 Kings in the Old Testament. This narrative delves into the injustices perpetrated by Jezebel, exploring her influence over Israel and the consequences of her actions. Jezebel was the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, a priest of Baal and Asherah. Her marriage to Ahab, the king of Israel, was likely a political alliance meant to strengthen ties between Israel and Sidon. However, this union brought the worship of Baal into Israel, directly opposing the worship of Yahweh, the God of Israel. 1 Kings 16:31 states, "And as if it had been a light thing for him to walk in the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, he took for his wife Jezebel, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, and went and served Baal and worshipped him." This passage highlights the beginning of Ahab's apostasy under Jezebel's influence, which would lead to severe consequences for the nation. One of Jezebel's most significant injustices was her relentless campaign to establish Baal worship as the dominant religion in Israel. She sponsored the construction of a temple and altar for Baal in Samaria, the capital of Israel. In 1 Kings 18:4, we read, "For it was so, when Jezebel cut off the prophets of the Lord, that Obadiah took 100 prophets and hid them by 50 in a cave, and fed them with bread and water." This verse illustrates the extent of Jezebel's persecution of the prophets of Yahweh. Jezebel's actions led to a dramatic confrontation on Mount Carmel between the prophets of Baal and the prophet Elijah. In 1 Kings 18:21, Elijah challenges the people, saying, "How long will you go limping between two different opinions?
If the Lord is God, follow him, but if Baal, then follow him."
The people of Israel were caught in a spiritual tug-of-war, largely due to Jezebel's aggressive promotion of Baal worship. Perhaps the most notorious of Jezebel's injustices was her involvement in the murder of Naboth, a righteous man who owned a vineyard that King Ahab coveted. Naboth's vineyard was adjacent to Ahab's palace, and the king desired to turn it into a vegetable garden. However, Naboth refused to sell his ancestral inheritance, adhering to the laws of Israel that prohibited the permanent sale of family land. In 1 Kings 21:3, Naboth declares, "The Lord forbid that I should give you the inheritance of my fathers." Ahab, frustrated and sullen, returned home to Jezebel, who quickly devised a sinister plan to acquire the vineyard. Jezebel orchestrated a scheme to falsely accuse Naboth of blasphemy and treason. She wrote letters in Ahab's name, sealed them with his seal, and sent them to the elders and nobles of Naboth's city. These letters instructed them to proclaim a fast and set Naboth in a prominent place among the people, only to then bring in two scoundrels to accuse him of cursing God and the king. The elders and nobles, likely out of fear of Jezebel, complied with her orders. In 1 Kings 21:13, it is recorded, "And the two worthless men came in and sat opposite him, and the worthless men brought a charge against Naboth in the presence of the people, saying, 'Naboth cursed God and the king.' So they took him outside the city and stoned him to death with stones." Naboth was executed on false charges, and Ahab took possession of the vineyard. This act of injustice is particularly heinous because it involved the manipulation of legal and religious systems to carry out a murder. The murder of Naboth was not just an isolated incident, it was a symbol of Jezebel's broader tyranny and corruption. Jezebel's disregard for God's law and her willingness to shed innocent blood demonstrate the depths of her wickedness. The injustices perpetrated by Jezebel did not go unnoticed by God. The prophet Elijah was sent to deliver a message of judgment to Ahab and Jezebel. In 1 Kings 21:23, Elijah prophesied, "And of Jezebel the Lord also said, The dogs shall eat Jezebel within the walls of Jezreel." This prophecy was a stark and vivid pronouncement of the consequences that would befall Jezebel for her actions. Elijah's prophecy was fulfilled in dramatic fashion. After Ahab's death, his son Joram reigned in Israel. However, Joram's reign was marked by turmoil, and eventually a military commander named Jehu was anointed by the prophet Elisha to bring about the downfall of Ahab's house. Jehu's rise to power was swift and brutal. When Jehu arrived in Jezreel, where Jezebel resided, she attempted to seduce him, possibly in an effort to secure her position. However, Jehu was unmoved by her charms. He ordered her eunuchs to throw her out of the window. Jezebel was thrown from the window. When they went to bury her, they found only her skull, feet, and the palms of her hands, as the dogs had devoured the rest of her body, fulfilling Elijah's prophecy. In 2 Kings 9:36-37, Jehu remarks, "This is the word of the Lord, which he spoke by his servant Elijah the Tishbite. In the territory of Jezreel, the dogs shall eat the flesh of Jezebel, and the corpse of Jezebel shall be as dung on the face of the field in the territory of Jezreel, so that no one can say, 'This is Jezebel.'" Jezebel's gruesome end was a direct consequence of her life of sin and injustice. Her death served as a powerful reminder of the inevitable judgment that comes upon those who oppose God and oppress the innocent. Jezebel's story is one of tragedy, tyranny, and the severe consequences of injustice. Her life serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of idolatry, the misuse of power, and the oppression of the righteous. Through her actions, Jezebel brought great suffering upon Israel, leading the nation into spiritual darkness and moral decay. Yet, in the end, her life was cut short in a violent and humiliating manner, demonstrating that God's justice, though sometimes delayed, is always certain. The story of Jezebel is a reminder that no act of injustice goes unnoticed by God. The injustices she perpetrated, her persecution of the prophets, her promotion of idolatry, and her murder of Naboth, ultimately led to her downfall. Her life and death underscore the biblical principle that God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that will he also reap. Galatians 6:7, Jezebel's legacy is one of warning. Those who live by injustice and rebellion against God will face judgment. Her story continues to serve as a powerful illustration of the consequences of sin and the certainty of divine retribution.